Hello students, our today's topic is nature of CX bond. Nature of CX bond. In case of haloalkanes, halogen atoms are more electronegative than carbon. Therefore, carbon halogen bond of alkyl halide is polarized. The carbon atom bears a partial positive charge, whereas the halogen atom bears a partial negative charge. As we go down the group in the periodic table, the size of halogen increases. Fluorine atom is the smallest and iodine atom is the largest. Consequently, the carbon halogen bond length goes on increasing. From CF to CI. As we can see that bond length of CF in terms of picometer is 139, bond length of CCl is 178, bond length of CBr is 193 and bond length of CI is 214 in case of methyl fluoride, methyl chloride, methyl bromide and methyl iodide. Thereafter, if we talk about bond enthalpy, that is the energy required to break CX bond. So, bond enthalpy in terms of kilojoule per mole in case of CF is 452, CCl is 351, CBr is 293, CI is 234. So, here we can see that if bond length is more, then in that case it is easier to break the bond. That is why when we move from CH3F to CH3I, bond enthalpy goes on decreasing. Now, if we talk about dipole moment, so here we can see that the order of bond length is CH3F less than CH3Cl less than CH3Br less than CH3I, and the order of bond enthalpy is CH3F greater than CH3Cl greater than CH3Br greater than CH3I. But if we talk about dipole moment, order of dipole moment, so here we will see that dipole moment is based on the electronegativity difference between carbon and halogen. So, which is having the least electronegative difference, so that is CH3I. So, dipole moment of CH3I will be least as electronegativity difference is least. Then electronegativity difference between carbon and bromine is more as compared to carbon and iodine. So, its dipole moment will be more. Now, when we talk about CH3F and CH3Cl, so we will see that the dipole moment of CH3F should be more as compared to CH3Cl, but here we will see the dipole moment depends upon charge of separation, that is the value of plus delta and minus delta. It also depends upon distance of separation between C and X. So, here we will see that carbon and fluorine are having less difference in their size, so R is less, but in case of carbon and chlorine, as chlorine is more bigger than fluorine, so that means here bond length is more, so R is more. So, R is more, so dipole moment is more in case of CH3Cl. That is why we will see that these two will interchange. So, that means dipole moment of CH3Cl will be more than dipole moment of CH3F. So, the order of dipole moment will be CH3Cl greater than CH3F greater than CH3Br greater than CH3I. Now, next is Methods of preparation of haloalkanes. So methods of preparation of haloalkanes. So here we will see that the hydroxyl haloalkanes can be obtained from alcohols. So first method to prepare haloalkanes is from alcohols. The hydroxy group of an alcohol is replaced by halogen on reaction with concentrated halogen acid. So here we will see that if we take alcohol and treat it with halogen acid, suppose we require Cl instead of OH, then we will use HCl, concentrated HCl, in the presence of zinc chloride. So in that case, by the removal of water, R will combine with Cl to form alkyl halide N plus H2O. Then second method is by treating. Now here we will see that in this first method, this reaction is fast with tertiary alcohol, slow with secondary alcohol, and very slow with primary alcohol. So that's why we will see that in this reaction, we will see that if tertiary alcohol is there, then in this reaction can be carried out at room temperature also. So it is very, very fast. While in secondary and primary alcohol, we have to heat it. Now we will see that in order to form alkyl halide, another method is by treating alcohol with sodium bromide in the presence of concentrated H2SO4. So in that case, we will see that H2SO4 is having two parts. One is H plus ion, another is HSO4 minus ion. Now Na plus along with HSO4 minus will form NaHSO4. Now OH will be replaced by Br. So we are going to get RBr. Now OH minus, which is removed, that will go with H plus ion to form water. Another method to convert alcohol into alkyl halide is by treating alcohol with PCl3. Now when we are treating alcohol with PCl3, we will take 3 moles of alcohol. So all the 3 OH will be replaced by 3 Cl to form 3 times RCl, that is alkyl chloride. Now we are remaining with phosphorus, 3 oxygen and 3 hydrogen. So that will form phosphorus acid H3PO3. Now alcohol, instead of PCl3, if it is treated with PCl5, then we will take only 1 mole of alcohol. So OH will be replaced by Cl. So we will get alkyl halide RCl. Now we are remaining with 4 chlorine. So out of 4 chlorine, 1 chlorine will go with H to form HCl. Now we are remaining with 3 chlorine. So 3 chlorine are remaining, 1 phosphorus is remaining, 1 oxygen is remaining. So we will get POCl3, that is phosphoryl chloride. Thereafter, if alcohol is treated with SOCl2, that is called thionyl chloride. For sulfur, word is thio, so that's why SOCl2 is called thionyl chloride. Then in that case, out of 2 Cl, 1 Cl will replace OH to form RCl. Second Cl will go with H to form HCl. And now we are remaining with SO and O, that is SO2. Now here we will see that out of these 3 methods, which method is more preferable to prepare alkyl halide? So last one, okay, that is with thionyl chloride. The reason is that both the byproducts, that is HCl and SO2, are in gaseous state. So if both the byproducts are in gaseous state, so they are easily escapable, and hence the reaction gives pure alkyl halide. Then another method to convert alcohol into alkyl halide is by treating alcohol with halogen X2 in the presence of red phosphorus. So here halogen may be bromine or iodine. So in that case OH will be replaced by bromine or iodine. So we are going to get alkyl halide. So these all are the methods to convert alcohol into alkyl halides. Now second method is from hydrocarbons. So if you want to convert hydrocarbons into alkyl halides, we are having different sub methods. Number one is from alkanes by free radical halogenation. Free radical chlorination or bromination of alkane gives a complex mixture of isomeric mono and polyhaloalkanes, which is difficult to separate as pure compounds. Consequently, the yield of any single compound is low. So if you are having butane, CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3, and if you are introducing chlorine gas in the presence of sunlight or heat, then substitution of H by Cl will take place. Now here there are two possibilities. Either Cl will replace the hydrogen of carbon number 1 to form 1 chlorobutane, or Cl may replace the hydrogen of carbon number 2 to form 2 chlorobutane. So we are going to get a mixture of isomers which are difficult to be separated, and so here we will see that the yield of any single compound is very low. Number 2 is from alkenes. So alkenes are also hydrocarbons. So from alkenes we can obtain haloalkane. First is by addition of hydrogen halides. So here we will see that when alkene such as ethene is treated with hydrogen halide, suppose I take hydrogen chloride or hydrogen bromide or hydrogen iodide, then hydrogen will combine with one of the double bonded carbon and Cl will join with the second hydrogen bond, double bonded carbon. So double bond will be converted into single bond. So in this way we will see that ethene is converted into chloroethane. Now here we will see that instead of symmetric alkene, that means same number of carbon atoms on either side of the double bond, if you take unsymmetric alkene having different number of carbon atoms on either sides of the double bond, in that if you are adding hydrogen halide, for example Hi, then in that case according to Markovnikov's rule, the more electronegative part, that is iodine, will go with that carbon of double bond which contains less hydrogen. So here we will see that carbon number 1 and carbon number 2 are double bonded carbons. Now carbon number 1 is having 2 hydrogen and carbon number 2 is having 1 hydrogen. So that means carbon number 2 is having less hydrogen. So iodine should combine with second carbon according to Markovnikov's rule. So that's why we will see that 2-iodopropane will become major product and 1-iodopropane will become minor product. Now second part from alkenes is by addition of halogens. So in the laboratory, generally when we are adding bromine to unsaturated compounds, that means compound containing double bond or triple bond, then in that case the brown color, the reddish brown color of bromine gets discharged. Okay, it becomes colorless. So that is because of the addition reaction of bromine. So wherever double bond is there, on either sides of the double bond, the two bromine atoms will get attached. So double bond will become single bond. So here we will see that as the brown color of bromine decolorizes, reddish brown color of bromine decolorizes, that indicates that the given compound is either alkene or alkyne. Okay, that means it is a test for unsaturation. So here Br2 is added in the presence of CCl4. So here we will see that in the product the two bromine atoms are joined with the neighboring carbon atoms. So it is a vicinal dihalide. So we are getting vicinal dibromite. Okay, so what will be the IUPAC of this compound? 1,2-dibromoethane is formed. Now number 3 is halogen exchange. Alkyl iodides are often prepared by the reaction of alkyl chloride or alkyl bromide with NaI. So if you are having X equal to Cl or Br, so in that case it is either alkyl chloride or alkyl bromide. It is treated with NaI in the presence of dry acetone. So in that case X will combine with Na to form NaX and Ri is formed. So here we can see that smaller halogen, that is chlorine or bromine, is replaced by bigger halogen, that is iodine. So this reaction is known as Finkelstein reaction, where smaller halides like alkyl chloride or alkyl bromide are converted into alkyl iodides. So here we will see that why are we adding dry acetone? Because whatever NaCl or NaBr is formed as a byproduct is precipitated by using dry acetone. So when NaX is precipitated by using dry acetone, then it facilitates the forward reaction according to Le Chatelier's principle. Now we can also convert alkyl chloride or alkyl bromide, where X equal to Cl or Br, into alkyl fluoride by using AgF. So when you are using AgF, so bigger halogen is converted into smaller halogen. So we are going to get Rf plus AgX. This reaction is known as Schwarz reaction. So two reactions are there in halogen exchange. In halogen exchange, we convert one halogen into another. In Finkelstein reaction, we convert bigger halogen into smaller halogen into bigger halogen. While in Schwarz reaction, we convert bigger halogen such as alkyl chloride or bromide into alkyl fluoride. But here you have to use AgF, not NaF, okay? Because the compound must be ionic. So we have to use AgF. Instead of AgF, in this Schwarz reaction, we can take any other fluoride compounds also, such as Hg2F2. Mercurous fluoride can be used Instead of it, we can also use cobalt fluoride, COF2, or we can also use antimony fluoride, SbF3. So these are also other alternatives which we can use instead of AgF to obtain alkyl fluoride. Now next is preparation of haloarenes. So the first method is to prepare haloarene is from hydrocarbon by electrophilic substitution reaction. Aryl chlorides and bromides can be easily prepared by electrophilic substitution of arenes with chlorine and bromine respectively in the presence of Lewis acid catalyst like iron or iron chloride. So suppose we are having toluene. So when it is treated with halogen, where halogen may be chlorine or bromine in the presence of Lewis acid catalyst such as iron in dark, then methyl group being ortho para directing group, so halogen may replace either hydrogen from ortho or hydrogen from para. So in that case we are getting two products. One is ortho halo toluene and second is para halo toluene. The ortho and para isobars can easily be separated due to large difference in their melting points. Reactions with iodine, okay, instead of Cl2 or Br2, if you take iodine, then in that case they are reversible reactions and require, because here we will see that whenever we are using X2, then the byproduct is HX. Okay? Suppose ortho से H is removed and from here X is removed, so HX is removed and the second X is going to replace hydrogen. Okay, so here we can see that the byproduct is HX. So if you are using iodine as a reagent, so here reversible reaction is there and byproduct is HI. Now it may happen that HI may again be converted into I2. So in that case what will happen, that the product form will be having less production, okay, because of reverse reaction. So if we want more yield of the product, then we have to stop the reverse reaction. So that can be done by treating HI with oxidizing agents such as HNO3 or HiO4. So when you are using oxidizing agents such as HNO3 or HiO4, then they will oxidize HI, and so the reverse reaction will not take place, and so the yield of the product will be more. So product will be obtained in more amount. And when you are doing fluorination instead of iodination, if you are doing fluorination, then the limitation is that fluorine is highly reactive. That's why aryl fluorides cannot be obtained by this method. So this method can be used only for the formation of aryl chloride, aryl bromide and aryl iodides. And in case of aryl iodides, we have to use oxidizing agents in order to stop the reverse reaction. Number 2 is from amines by Sand-Meyer reactions. So if you want to convert amine into alkyl halide, we are using Sand-Meyer's reaction. In Sand-Meyer reaction, first of all we will take primary aromatic amine, okay, that means NH2 containing amine. Like here benzene with NH2 is called aniline. So when this aniline is dissolved in cold aqueous solution of acid, dilute acid, in the presence of NaNO2 at 273 to 278 Kelvin temperature, that means 0 to 5 degrees Celsius. then in that case NH2 group will be converted into diazonium halide. That means benzene bonded with N2 plus and X minus. So here we will see that there is no bond between N2 plus and X minus. They are ionic species, positive and negative ions. That's why they are attracted with each other. So benzene is there, then it is bonded with N2 plus, and with ionic bond N2 plus is attached with X minus. This compound is called benzene. Then for N2 plus we will write diazonium, and for X minus we will write halide. The benzene diazonium halide is produced. Now this benzene diazonium halide in the second step is treated with cuprous halide, Cu2X2. So depending upon if you require to prepare chlorobenzene, then we will use Cu2Cl2, and if you require bromobenzene we will use Cu2Br2. So in that case, whatever Cl minus or Br minus is present in the cuprous halide will combine with benzene ring. So in that case we will get corresponding haloarine, and N2 will form nitrogen gas. So here we will see that X may be Cl or Br. So this reaction is called Sand-Meyer reaction. So it occurs in two steps. Now if you want to prepare alkyl iodide, then in that case this benzene diazonium halide is treated with KI. Okay. So in order to prepare chloride or bromide, chlorobenzene or bromobenzene, we require Cu2X2. But in order to prepare iodobenzene, it is very easy. Just we have to heat it with Ki. So in that case, I will get directly attached with benzene to form iodobenzene. So in that case, N2 plus ion will form nitrogen gas. So by this method we obtain iodobenzene. Now let us see physical properties of haloalkanes and haloarenes. So we will see that alkyl halides are colorless when pure. However, alkyl bromides and alkyl iodides when exposed to light develop color. So they become colored when they are kept open in light. Otherwise alkyl chloride are always colorless. Many volatile halogen compounds have sweet smell. For example, chloroform. So that is having sweet smell. Then if we talk about melting point and boiling point, so we will see that lower alkyl halides such as methyl chloride, methyl bromide, ethyl chloride and chlorofluoromethanes are gases at room temperature. Higher members are liquids or solids. Molecules of organic halogen compounds are generally polar. Due to greater polarity as well as higher molecular mass as compared to the parent hydrocarbon, the intermolecular forces of attraction such as dipole-dipole and van der Waals forces are stronger in case of haloalkanes as compared to pure alkanes. So here we will see that when we talk about pure alkanes, like if it is CH4, then we will see that its molar mass will be less as compared to CH3Cl. As well as in CH4 only van der Waals force is there, while in case of haloalkane van der Waals force is also there and dipole-dipole is also there because of polar CCl bond. So because of polar CCl bond in between any two haloalkane, we will see that carbon, partial positive carbon of one haloalkane and partial negative halogen of another haloalkane will have dipole-dipole interaction between them. So due to this reason, their boiling points are higher as compared to hydrocarbons. The attraction gets stronger as the molecule gets bigger in size and have more electrons. The variation in boiling points of alkyl halide decreases in the order. Ri is having higher boiling point as compared to RBr, is having higher boiling point than RCl, is having higher boiling point than RF. So here we will see that boiling point is directly proportional to molar mass. So here we will see that when we talk about Ri, so iodine is having more molar mass, so Ri will be having more molar mass, so its boiling point will be higher. And fluorine is the having least molar mass, so RF is having least boiling point. So with the decrease in molar mass, boiling point decreases from Ri to RF. So here we will see that as the molar mass size of the halogen decreases, van der Waals force of attraction also decreases, and so boiling point decreases. Now when we talk about isomeric haloalkanes, for example, if we are having bromobutane, now when we talk about one bromobutane, so it is linear, so that's why its boiling point is higher. Its boiling point is 375 Kelvin. Now instead of one bromobutane, if we take an isomer 2 bromobutane, then in that case with branching the boiling point decreases. So here we will see that with branching what happens, that surface area decreases, and so van der Waals force of attraction decreases, and so boiling point also decreases, so it becomes 364 Kelvin. Now when we are forming one more isomer which is highly branched, and that is 2-bromo-2-methyl propane, that is also isomer of the same compound. So here more branching is there as compared to 2-bromobutane, so its boiling point will further decrease to 346 Kelvin. Now when we talk about isomeric dihaloarenes, for example dichlorobenzene, so dichlorobenzene is having 3 isomers. One is 1,2-dichlorobenzene, another is 1,3-dichlorobenzene, and the next is 1,4-dichlorobenzene. So when we talk about boiling point, the boiling point of dihaloarene depends upon their dipole moment. So here we will see that ortho-dichlorobenzene is having highest dipole moment, and so its boiling point is highest, that is 453 Kelvin. Thereafter para isomer is having less dipole moment, so its boiling point is 448 Kelvin, and meta isomer is having least dipole moment, so its boiling point is 446 Kelvin. So order of boiling point is ortho greater than para greater than meta. So this you have to remember. And in case of melting point, just make the last two in case of melting point, the order will be that para isomer is having highest melting point of 323 Kelvin. Thereafter we are having ortho dichlorobenzene having melting point 256 Kelvin, and the least melting point is of meta isomer 249 Kelvin. So in case of melting point, the highest melting point is of para isomer. So here we have to make these two interchange. So P is greater than O is greater than M. Now question may be asked from here, okay, why para isomer is having highest melting point? So here we have to remember that in case of para isomer, the highest melting point as compared to ortho and meta isomer is due to symmetry of para isomer that fits in crystal lattice better as compared to ortho and meta isomer. So here we will see that as para isomer is symmetric, so in the crystal, solid crystal, the molecules of para dichlorobenzene will be very much close to each other. So that's why they fit better in the crystal lattice, and so their melting points are higher as compared to ortho and meta isomer. Now another physical property is density. So here we will see the density of haloalkanes depend upon their molecular mass. So bromo, iodo and polychloro derivatives of hydrocarbons are heavier than water. The density increases with the increase in the number of carbon atoms, halogen atoms and atomic mass of halogen atoms. So density may increase because of three reasons. One is number of carbon atoms, second is number of halogen atoms. So if number of halogen atom increases, then also molecular mass increases, and so density increases. And third is atomic mass of halogen. So instead of chlorine, if you take bromine or iodine, then atomic mass increases, so density increases. Now next is solubility. Haloalkanes are very slightly soluble in water. In order to dissolve haloalkanes in water, energy is required to overcome the attractions between the haloalkane molecules and break the hydrogen bonds between water molecules. Less energy is released when new attractions are set up between haloalkanes and water molecules, and as these are not as strong as original hydrogen bonds in water. As a result, the solubility of haloalkanes in water is low. However, haloalkanes tend to dissolve in organic solvents because the new intermolecular attractions between haloalkanes and solvent molecules have much the same strength as one being broken in separate haloalkanes and solvent molecules. So here we will see that if I want to dissolve haloalkanes in water, so in that case I will have to break dipole-dipole force between haloalkanes, as well as I have to break hydrogen bond between water molecules. Then only what will happen, haloalkanes and water will combine with each other. So new forces of attraction will occur between haloalkanes and water. So here we will see that in order to form a new bond between water and haloalkanes, the energy released will be less. But in order to break old bonds between haloalkanes as well as between water and water, it requires more energy. So here we can see that when haloalkane and water are forming new bond and get dissolved, at that time the energy released is less. While here, in order to break old bonds between haloalkane molecules and water molecules, it requires more energy. That's why the number of bonds breaking will be less, and so haloalkanes are less soluble in water. But haloalkanes are easily soluble in organic solvent. So instead of water, if we use organic solvent, then they are easily soluble. Now next is chemical reactions of haloalkanes. So in that, first is reactions of haloalkanes. So in that, number one is nucleophilic substitution reactions, that is SN reactions. Now there are two nucleophilic substitution reactions are there. In nucleophilic substitution reaction, what happens? As CX bond in haloalkane is polar, carbon carries partial positive charge and halogen carries partial negative charge, and so when the bond is broken, both the electrons will be taken up by halogen, so it will form X minus ion. So in that case, a nucleophile, that means a species which is electron rich and negatively charged, it will use its lone pair of electrons to combine with carbon. So here we will see that as halogen is taking away both the electrons of CX bond, carbon becomes positive. Now in order to form the fourth bond, the two electrons of nucleophile will form a fourth bond between carbon and nucleophile. So halogen will be replaced by nucleophile. So this reaction is called nucleophilic substitution reaction. So here we will see that there are some nucleophiles which are having more than one nucleophilic centers. For example, if I talk about cyanides. Then cyanides are having two nucleophilic centers. Either negative charge may be on carbon in one of the resonance structures, or negative charge may be on nitrogen in the another resonance structure. So in that case we will see that Cn is the nucleophile. Okay, Cn minus is the nucleophile. If carbon is carrying negative charge, then when this halogen is removed from alkyl halide, then in that case cyanide will join with this carbon through carbon, okay, of the cyanide molecule, cyanide nucleophile. And if cyanide is having nitrogen as the negative ion, then in that case when this X is removed, nitrogen of cyanide will combine with carbon of the alkyl group. So here we will see that we are getting two different compounds. If Cn combines with the alkyl group through carbon, then it is called cyanide compound. And if Cn combines with carbon through nitrogen, then it is called isocyanate. So we can see that Cn is a nucleophile which is having more than one nucleophilic centers, okay, carbon as well as nitrogen. So in some compounds it is bonded with the carbon, and in some compounds it is bonded with nitrogen. So that's why this nucleophile is called ambident nucleophile. Ambident nucleophile. So here we can see that cyanides and isocyanides are ambident nucleophiles of each other. Another example is thiocyanide and isothiocyanate. And another example is NO2. In case of NO2, either bond formation may take place through nitrogen, or bond formation may take place through oxygen. So if bond formation takes place through nitrogen with alkyl group, so if the nitrogen of a nucleophile joins with alkyl group, then it is called nitroalkane. And if NO2 nucleophile joins with alkyl group through oxygen, then it is called alkyl nitrite. So here we can see that nitrite and nitro are also ambident nucleophile of each other. Now we are having two types of substitution reactions. First is substitution nucleophilic bimolecular. So that can be denoted as SN2. The reaction between CH3Cl. So when we are writing CH3Cl in 2D, 2 dimension, then we can write the bonds in the plane as a straight line. So suppose CH bond and CCl bond are in the plane, and one CH bond is out of the plane, so that can be shown by a solid wedge, and the CH bond which is going inside the plane of the paper is shown by dashed wedge. So we have to remember that the broad part of dashed wedge and solid wedge should be towards us, and the narrow part should be away from us. So this solid wedge shows that this CH bond is coming out of the plane, and dashed wedge shows that this CH bond is going inside the plane. Now if you are introducing a nucleophile OH minus, now here we will see that reaction of CH3Cl and OH minus follows second order kinetics. So that's why it is called SN2 reaction. Here we can see that the reaction begins with two species, methyl chloride and OH minus. So that's why it is called second order reaction. So here we will see that in SN2 reaction, the breaking of old bond between, now here you can see that carbon is partial positive charge and chlorine is partial negative charge. Now if OH minus ion tries to attack the carbon from the side of the chlorine, then in that case, because of the same negative charges, they will repel each other. So that's why OH minus ion cannot attack the carbon from the side of chlorine. So in case of SN2, OH minus ion will attack the carbon from the back side. So here we will see that chlorine will take away both the electrons of CCl bond. So chlorine will become leaving group and OH minus ion will become nucleophile. So here we can see that initially in surrounding the carbon there are 3 sigma bonds, so it is sp3 carbon and shape is tetrahedral. Now OH minus ion will attack from the back side, so these 3 hydrogen will come in the plane, in the same plane of paper, so it will become triangular planar, and now the carbon is sp2 carbon and it is triangular planar. Now here old bond between C and Cl will be broken, so that can be shown by dotted line, and new bond between C and OH will be formed, so that also can be shown by dotted line. So this is the intermediate, and finally the old bond will be completely broken, so Cl minus will be formed and new bond will be completely formed. So here we can see that as OH is attacking the carbon from left hand side, so these 3 hydrogen which were on the left hand side, now they will be on right hand side. So again they will become 3-dimensional arrangement, 1H in the plane, 1H out of the plane and 1H inside the plane. So here we can see that the whole CH3 part has changed its direction. Okay, so instead of left hand side it has become right hand side, and again it has become sp3 and tetrahedral. So we have got methanol from chloromethane. Okay, we have obtained methanol. So here we can see that this molecule is similar to the umbrella in the high wind. As we can see that in high wind umbrella becomes inverted. In the same way, this OH can be, this bond can be considered as a stick of the umbrella. So we can see that this CH3 has become similar to the umbrella in the high wind. So inversion has taken place. Okay, over here inversion of configuration has taken place. That means the whole CH3 part has become reversed in the product. Now here we will see that if all the 3 are hydrogen, then in that case the space between the 3 CH bonds will be more. So OH minus ion can easily attack carbon. But if any one of these hydrogen is made CH3, so instead of hydrogen if I take CH3 over here, then in that case now one CH3 is there, one H is there, one H is there. Because of bulky CH3, the space between CH3 H and H will become less. So that's why OH minus ion will be cannot attack carbon easily. So that means this reaction becomes slow. And if I take 2 CH3, then in that case the space between CH3 and H will become even less. So that's then OH minus will find more difficulty to approach carbon. So reaction will become even difficult, or we can say slow, very slow. And if 3 CH3 are there, then the reaction will be slowest. Okay, so that means SN2 reaction depends upon the steric hindrance, or we can say crowdiness. Okay, if more crowd is there, then OH minus ion will not be able to attack carbon easily, and so reaction will become difficult. So what will be the order of reactivity of alkyl halide in SN2? So we will see that this reaction is very fast with CH3Cl. Then if I replace one of the hydrogen by CH3, so that is become CH3CH2Cl, and if I replace second hydrogen also by CH3, then it will become CH3 twice CHCl, and if I replace the last hydrogen also by CH3, then it becomes CH3 thrice CCl. So that means when it is a methyl halide, then this reaction is very fast. If primary alkyl halide, then slow. Secondary alkyl halide even slow. Tertiary alkyl halide very slow in case of SN2. Okay. Now let us talk about SN1 reaction. So number B is substitution nucleophilic unimolecular. So that is called SN1. In this reaction, the breaking of old bond between carbon and leaving group and the formation of new bond between carbon and nucleophile does not take simultaneously. Okay, SN2 में breaking of bond and formation of bond takes place simultaneously, while in case of SN1, breaking of old bond will take place in the first step and formation of new bond will take place in second step. So this is a two-step reaction. So here we can see that SN1 reaction starts with only one reactant. That's why it is called unimolecular, as it starts with only one reactant. Suppose I am having tertiary butyl bromide. The first reaction is slow and reversible. Okay, so first step will become rate determining step, as it is slow and reversible. So here breaking of old bond will take place completely. So carbon, after losing the bond, will become positively charged, and the 3CH3 will come in the same plane, and we will get Br minus. So breaking of old bond will take place in the first step, and formation of new bond will take place in the second step. So here we will see that the carbocation formed in the first step will become reactant in the second step, and second step is fast and irreversible. Now when you are introducing nucleophile OH minus, now here you can see that as leaving group is no more, that means OH minus can attack carbon from the right hand side also and left hand side also. So that means here you are going to get two products. One product in which OH minus ion is present on the left hand side, and second product in which OH minus attacks the carbon on the right hand side. So here we are going to get a mixture of two products. Now here you can see that in one of the product, all the 3CH3 are on the same side of carbon as they were in the reactant side. So that means here the tertiary butyl group is on the same side as it was in the reactant. So it is called retention of configuration. Retention means as it is. While in the second product, the tertiary butyl group has become inverted. Okay, so instead of left hand side, it has gone on the right hand side. So that is called inversion. So retention is also taking place and inversion is also taking place. So this mixture is called racemic mixture. So in the product, the mixture of two isomers, one in which retention is there, that means the configuration is as it is as the reactant, and second in which the configuration has changed, it became opposite to the reactant, then this mixture is called racemic mixture. Now here we will see that SN1 reaction may the rate of reaction depends on the stability of carbocation. If carbocation is more stable, then the second reaction will occur very fast, and so SN1 will be fast. So here we can see that when you are taking 3 CH3 groups on either sides of the carbocation, then CH3 group can give electron pair to the carbon, so that the stability of carbocation will increase. So if you are having 3 methyl groups, then stability of carbocation will be increased from 3 sides. So this shows that if you are having tertiary butyl bromide, then this reaction is very fast, because from tertiary butyl bromide the carbocation obtained is more stable, and so the reaction second step will occur very fast. But instead of this, if suppose at any one place H is there, if at any one place H is there, then in that case what will happen? This carbocation, which is unstable and electron deficient, will gain electrons only from 2 CH3 groups. So that means its stability will be less as compared to tertiary carbocation. Okay, this is secondary carbocation because this carbocation is attached with 2 CH3 or 2 carbons, so it is secondary carbocation. So that means when we are having secondary alkyl halide, the carbocation is less stable, and so the SN1 reaction will be slow. And if we are having one more hydrogen, then in that case the carbocation form will be primary carbocation, as here the carbon carrying positive charge is attached with only one carbon. So here its electron requirement is satisfied by only one methyl group, so it is least stable carbocation, so this reaction will be slow. And if suppose the last CH3 is also replaced by hydrogen, then in that case we are getting methyl carbocation. Okay, CH3 plus is called methyl carbocation, and methyl carbocation is also electron deficient, but to increase its electron density there is no methyl group surrounding it, so its electron requirement is not satisfied. That's why it is least stable carbocation, and so the reaction will be very slow. So what can we say from this? Okay, SN1 reaction is very fast in case of tertiary alkyl halide, slow in case of secondary alkyl halide, very slow in case of primary alkyl halide, and very slow in case of methyl halide. So this will be the order of reactivity in SN1. So we can see that order of reactivity in SN1 is completely opposite to SN2. ठीक है, SN2 में tertiary less than secondary less than primary less than methyl was there, while here tertiary more than secondary more than primary more than methyl is there, because in both the cases SN1 and SN2 the concept is different. In SN2 the crowding effect of groups surrounding the carbon of alkyl halide determines the reactivity. Okay, if more crowd is there surrounding carbon, then OH minus will not be able to attack carbon easily, and so reaction will be slow. While in case of SN1, the reactivity of reaction depends upon the stability of carbocation, and as more alkyl groups are there surrounding the carbocation, that carbocation will be more stable, and so that alkyl halide will give this reaction very fast. So that's why tertiary gives reaction very fast. Now here we will see that order of reactivity in SN1 and SN2 does not depend only on the alkyl group, it also depends upon CX bond. Okay, so order of reactivity of SN1 and SN2 also depends upon CX bond. If CX bond can be broken easily, then the reaction will be very fast, because if CX bond can be broken easily, the leaving group will leave carbon rapidly, and so the reaction will be fast. Now on the basis of the CX bond, the order of reactivity of SN1 and SN2 is same only. So that means alkyl fluoride, if it is there, then reaction will be very slow, because here carbon of alkyl group joins with fluorine, and we know that as fluorine is smaller in size, the length will be short, and so bond will be broken with difficulty, so reaction will be slow. Instead of that, if alkyl chloride is there, so carbon of alkyl group is same as over here, but chlorine will be bigger than fluorine, so bond length will become more, so bond can be broken easily. If long bond is there, it can be broken easily. So that means reaction will be fast in case of alkyl chloride. If alkyl bromide is there, carbon of alkyl is of same size, but bromine is more bigger than chlorine, so bond length will be more, so bond can be broken easily, so reaction will be even faster. And if alkyl iodide is there, so carbon of alkyl group is as it is, but iodine is bigger in size, so bond length, that is the distance between nucleus and nucleus, will be more, so bond can be broken very easily, so this reaction is very fast. So this order of reactivity on the basis of the bond length of RX bond is same in both SN1 and SN2. That's all for today.